y'all know this about me, but I love seeing leopards eat faces. It is one of my favorite things to see. Especially faces that knew they were gonna get eaten if they voted this way.
This is my 39th crop. I started in 1986, the year I graduated high school. I could plant an acre of beans in 1986 for 30 bucks. Trump's stupid tariffs. I think agriculture has taken a heck of a hit on a lot of misinformation, and he is not helping the farmer. I mean, we farm about 3,500 acres. We are going to be so far in the red. When are you going to stand up for us instead of kissing his for these trade deals? And the tariffs. More so the tariffs than the trade.
I mean, we told you guys. We told you this for months, years. The economy is dog shit. If you elect Donald Trump, it's going to collapse, basically. But no, you didn't want that. And now your farms are gonna disappear. And farmers are important as shit. Those motherfuckers give us food. Donald Trump don't give a about that. Donald Trump's gonna eat. He's rich. You and me. Us when it comes to eating. That's why he doesn't give a Donald Trump will never give a I think we're too deep into shit. I don't even know how to fix this. If it's even possible to be fixed, it's gonna take decades to get back to some kind of normality. Decades.
This is a soybean. Right now, millions of tons of these are sitting in fields just like this, with nowhere to go because of Washington's trade wars. Americans already pay 86% of the tariffs. And now, Washington's idea of a solution is to take even more of your money to bail out farmers for a problem that they created.
Well, the Democrats were right again, and it turns out the farmers of Iowa are completely shit out of luck, specifically because they voted for Trump, okay? Because his policies have double them, okay? Starting with USAID. Now, you might say, why would USAID be connected to the farmers of Iowa? Well, turns out the USAID was one of their most reliable customers. We were spending up to $2 billion every year buying soybeans from them and then shipping them overseas to feed poor, starving children. Until our Christian president got in office and he said, what?
I need all the farmers for Trump to come to the front of the class because I hear you're asking the rest of us for money because Donald Trump's tariffs are going to financially ruin you. And what's so funny about that is didn't Donald Trump and his tariffs bring you to the brink last time because he got you into a trade war with China. And now China is basically cutting off corn, soy, all agricultural products, and they're looking to other places like Canada, Brazil, anywhere else they can get agricultural products, and U.S. farmers are the ones left holding the bag. There's a soybean farmer that's been making the rounds here, and he's saying, I voted for Donald Trump 3 times, and I was glad to, and I like his policies, but these tariffs are hurting us, and I need you to stop this, Mr. President. And they're asking us for another bailout, the taxpayers, another bailout because they decided to vote for Donald Trump for a 3rd time. That's a round and find out, my friends. And I'm not here to help financially support these people. They want to bitch and moan, all these people on the right, about people being on welfare and people needing handouts. And well, farmers, wear those bootstraps that you guys like to talk about all the time. Why don't you find them and pull yourselves up from them? Because we are tired of bailing you out. I understand that if you don't get bailed out and these tariffs ruin you guys, it's going to have a huge impact on the rest of us. But I knew that before the election. I knew that when I was stumping for Kamala Harris and telling people not to vote for Donald Trump. So you're fuck around and find out. I hope it's a little more personal because you guys decided to continue to vote against your own interest and cut off your nose to spite your face. It's time you sit in it for a minute.
It doesn't feel right to be sharing bad news. It doesn't feel right, but it's at that point where we need help. I guess we're sounding the alarm.
DLCD, Department of Land Conservation and Development, has come out with a policy recommendation that, if it's adopted later this year, will make it virtually impossible for agritourism to survive.
The DLCD rules will put the nails in the coffin for us.
If you enjoy a U-pick, if you enjoy farm-to-table dinners, if you enjoy pumpkin patches, if your kids enjoy a hayride or a cow train, these are the kind of things that we and other farms are going to lose.
Wait, you mean to tell me Americans don't want to pick lettuce for $2 an hour? No. Now the farmers are crying because they can't find any workers. Ain't that something? After you pushed out all of the immigrant workers who actually did the job, now you're standing around wondering why Chet and Kaylee won't come pick your cabbage in 100-degree weather for $4.75 and a Capri Sun? Y'all really thought folks were going to jump at the chance to break their backs for pennies on a dollar. But you know what's even funnier, y'all? Some of these farmers say the American workers they do get, they don't even last the whole damn day. One guy said somebody walked off by luck. And honestly, I support it. Listen, I wouldn't be out there picking strawberries and fighting bees and being dehydrated just so that farmer could sell those strawberries for $12.99 a box at Whole Foods. Negative. See, they've been telling you this lie for years. They took our jobs. Nah, Americans, you didn't want those jobs. You just didn't want them to have the jobs either. Now look at you. A field full of crops and not a soul to pick them. Next time, think twice before turning labor into a culture war. 'Cause now, it's just you and your own damn tomatoes.
Alright guys, at this point I really don't know what to say about these farmers because this is straight up lack of critical thinking and racism, of course. Critical thinking in the sense that you really need the ability or the skill to think outside the box, and you actually need the skill to connect the dots to understand what is good for you and what is not good for you. Even if you cannot understand that, you actually need the skill to do some research. And the problem is that these farmers, overwhelmingly, majority of them voted for the orange man, and that is after having the scare that they had back in 2017 in his first tenure. But they never learned, they never listened. All they wanted was to own the leaves. But how is owning the leaves actually getting you right now? It's getting your firms actually bankrupted. It's getting you losing generation of businesses because you actually could not think critically and make a decision that was best for you. You went ahead, voted against your best interest, regardless of the fact that a lot of liberals were warning you guys, regardless of the fact that a lot of black folks were warning you guys. But you wanted policies that would affect other people except y'all, and that there is actually hatred for other people, and you guys actually being out loud racist because you wanted other people to be affected. You wanted Latinos to be deported, but you forgot one thing, that majority of your labor force was actually comprised of illegal immigrants that you depended on to actually carry on your day-to-day farm work. Well, you F around, you find out. Let me know in the comments, guys, what do you think about today's episode. I'm your presenter, Joel Mugisha. Let's take a look. I'll be back with more commentary after this.
America's soybean farmers are in a world of hurt. They're going to lose their farms and their livelihoods, and they did it to themselves. And now they are begging, pleading, oh, help us. We punished ourselves because we thought Donald Trump was only going to hurt the right people, not us. We thought Donald Trump was going to hurt women and black people and Latinos and immigrants and the homeless and LGBTQ. We never thought Donald Trump would hurt us, even though Donald Trump told us on the campaign trail that he was going to raise tariffs, even though Project 2025 explicitly lays out the tariff plan and the plan to bankrupt soybean farmers all across America so that they can buy their land for cheap. Oh, yeah. And Vice President J.D. Vance owns part of an app to help buy up the bankrupt land. Come on. Get real. You were either willfully ignorant, dumb, or both, America's soybean farmers.
Critical thinking is so fucking valuable here in 2025. Like, you have no idea. If you are someone that can think outside the box and really put like pieces together in your head regarding what can occur or what can happen, like, you are fucking valuable. I know that this world makes it seem like critical thinkers are people that are like conspiracy theorists, or they just like, they don't want none of that in the United States. What made me think of this is this whole farmers situation, right? The farmers in Arkansas and farmers all across the United States are sounding alarm bells, right? Like they are saying like, whoa, we are in dire need of help, right? We cannot survive with everything that's going on. But guess what? One of the biggest reason why they are struggling is because of who they decided to vote for. They overwhelmingly voted Trump. Okay, so Trump received a huge amount of support in the 2024 election from farm-dependent counties, securing around 78% of their votes. If I was someone with critical thinking skills, I would say, should I vote Trump? Well, let me see what he's trying to do here, okay? Because he wants to basically send every immigrant back to their countries, right? Is that a good idea for me? Because who do I depend on for labor? And then I also think about the things that he wants to do. He wants to cut a lot of government agencies, right? He wants like less federal government. Well, look at something that he decided to cut. One of the things that Trump had cut was the United States Agency of International Development, okay? USAID or USAID, however way you guys want to say it, right? And guess what the fuck they do? Well, everyone was cheering him on like, yeah, that's wasteful spending, right? Like sending food across the world is wasteful spending, but okay. Let's just play that game, right? Waste, right? But look at this. The USAID, they play a huge role with farmers, okay? They said that it's one of the largest buyers of U.S. grown crops, as it spent about $2.1 billion a year worldwide for food aid. And now add this trade war that they have with China, and look at some of these farmers that depend heavily on trade with the Chinese market. A lot of people just fail to see the bigger picture. A lot of people cannot critically think to say, okay, if A happens, then tell me what happens next. What's B and C? You know, what does that look like? They can't do that. They can't see beside themselves. They can't think besides themselves. They live in this linear box where only they exist, and they can't connect the dot. And that is extremely scary, but it makes perfect sense considering education in the United States. They don't want you to critically think. They don't want you to put pieces of the puzzles together. That's why they don't spend extra on education. And I don't feel bad for these farmers. I do not feel bad. You guys can go claim bankruptcy, which you have. But one thing that I will not allow is a dime of tax-paying dollars to go to you guys when we try to warn you. And not only that, some people were not even supportive of student loan bailout. So you guys can go kiss my fucking ass and go reap what you fucking sow.
JD Vance wants U.S. farmers to go bankrupt. Let me explain. The vice president is invested in a company called Acre Trader. Think of Acre Trader as the equivalent of buying stock in a company. Instead of buying one condo, you invest in a company that owns 200. This company profits off of selling farmland to investors through shady LLCs. Of course, the problem with LLCs is you don't necessarily know who owns the farmland, including whether or not there are ethical dilemmas. When you're looking to buy a stock, what do? You buy low and sell high, and that's exactly what's happening with Acre Trader. Acre Trader is buying up property that goes into bankruptcy, farmers who are losing their livelihoods after generations. Now, if you wanted to buy cheap property, what would you do? Perhaps create tariffs that put undue burden on farmers that might cause them to go into bankruptcy? Just a thought. Yet somehow a vast majority of farmers in the United States voted for Donald Trump and JD Vance.
I'm out here in the farm fields of Illinois. This is a bean field that just turned brown in mid-September. And there's a lot of concern over where the product that these farmers in Illinois have raised is going to be going and what kind of price they'll get for the crops they've raised. I grew up in this area. I went to Little Cayman High School. It's about 2 miles north of here. And I went to school with all the farm kids, and I even grew up in eastern Pennsylvania and went to school with Amish and Mennonite kids in Lancaster County. And growing up, I had an uncle who ran a farm in upstate New York. So I have some history with an empathy for farmers, because I watch how hard they work to get this crop on the ground, and its timing, and the rains in spring, whether they come or not. One year it was too wet, the next year it's too dry. It's tough being a farmer. But what's even tougher is growing all this crops and having all the equipment and debt you need to be a farmer, and then be cast aside by things like tariffs. And that's what's so confusing to me. The people out here in farm country, a lot of them have Trump signs in their lawns. There's a huge one up the road here. When I'm cycling over the summer, I see them all over the place. Probably see 10 to 20 in a 40-mile ride. And that indicates to us that farmers are big into Republican values, and that's the other side of the coin here. You know, what is the ideology driving people to want to be Republican? Well, over the centuries, you know, that we've had farming here in the United States, there's been a lot of deception by conservatives. You know, the Dust Bowl came about because people were told to go on out, God will help you, and rain will follow the plow. And that was a lie. And what we wound up with is agricultural conditions that basically turned the entire Great Plains to dust. And there's sort of a similar thing going on in Illinois in many states, because soils are not in a great condition here either. And there's just sort of been this profit-oriented idea that it's your job to go and grind up the soil and get what you can out of it, get the best price for it, and we'll take care of the rest. You know, it's that classic sort of go, go, go ideology that people pride themselves on in America. But, you know, sustainability is a real problem. That's true in terms of economic markets, where a lot of crops from the United States are sold to other countries, for example, China. And now we've imposed tariffs on China, and guess who winds up paying the price? It's Illinois and Iowa and Wisconsin and Missouri and Nebraska and all these farmers that, you know, work their lives trying to sustain their crop output every year. And Trump doesn't care about those people.
Alright guys, there you have it. Actually, again, I really don't know what to say about these farmers. You tell me in the comments, what do you think? At this point, I think that, man, there's nothing that you can actually do to save or change the mind of these people, because I think they are so delusional, or they are in too deep in the Maga cult that they cannot actually think themselves. They actually lack the skill of critical thinking, because a normal person who's a businessman, you're running a business, you would actually make decisions that are in the best interest of your business. Of course, that's what everybody actually does, especially if you actually made a mistake before that you can actually learn from. That's what's expected of us. When you learn from your mistakes, you do better next time. But these people, after learning from their mistakes back in 2017 in the first tenure of the Orange Man, they actually went ahead and did it again. Why did they do that? Because they wanted to own the leaves, because they wanted people of color, brown people, illegal immigrants out of the country, because of racism. They wanted other people to suffer, just accept them. They were voting for policies that, I don't know, man, did they not know that tariffs actually are paid by American consumers? Did they actually not know? Because that's exactly what happened back in the first tenure of the Orange Man. You guys were affected by tariffs. And what was the lifeline that actually bailed you out? USAID or USAID, as you can call it. And that was a Republican policy. And now you even lost that. Well, you are cheering and chanting for the government to cut on spending on these federal agencies because it was wasteful. But did you actually go ahead and learn and try to do research about what USAID was actually about? Or did you actually want for other people to lose their safety nets like Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare, student loans, other people to be affected, but don't touch USAID because that actually benefits us? What did you expect when the orange man was saying that he was going to bring business back to the United States soil? He was going to make people rich. Well, he wasn't talking about you. He was talking about the rich people, the tycoons, the big corporations, not the American farmers. There is a conspiracy theory, and that's what they call it. When people actually think for themselves critically, they call it conspiracy theory, but it is what it is. There is a company owned by J.D. Vance that is buying up farmlands in the United States. And some people, as you might want to call them conspiracy theorists, are saying maybe that's the plan to get you all bankrupt so that they can buy up every farmland and control the food supply. Maybe that's the plan. Who knows, man? You let me know in the comments, man. Not my word. Don't come for me. Not my word. As it is conspiracy theory. Yeah, but let's be honest, man. These people brought this to themselves. They actually effed themselves, man. They stabbed themselves in the back because you can do better, especially after getting a scare like you got back in the first tenure of the Orange Man, and you were bailed out by policies that were put in place by Democrats. Now, you lost USAID. Now you're crying for bailouts, you're crying for handouts. When other people are actually getting social safety nets, you call it handouts. Pull yourself out by the bootstraps. How about you do the same? How about you yourselves also pull yourselves up by the bootstraps? Because there are some farmers who have actually been doing that for years. Have you heard of black farmers coming here crying and simping for government aid? That's because they learned to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, and that's exactly what they're doing. Well, you do that exactly yourself because that is the stance that you have taken. That is what you like to chant and enforce on other people. How about you follow the same stance? And how about you follow the same stance and let's see what happens? Well, let me know, guys. What do you think about today's episode? I'm your presenter, Joel Mugisha. If you're new, kindly consider subscribing, hit that like button. See you on the next episode.